It is 5:30. I'm going to call the Stephenville City Council meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. There's the United States flag and the Texas flag. And I've asked Nick if he could lead those, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Just in case I'm missing tonight is Brother Whitman in. Seeing that he's not here tonight, let's have an agenda or scheduling issue. I've asked Councilman Nix if he would lead us in invocation.
Will you bear with me? Father, we come to you tonight, number one, thankful for the many blessings you have showered on us. We are so blessed to live in this great nation and in this great state and in this great community. Father, we ask that you be with us tonight as we make decisions that impact our lives and the lives of all of our citizens. Help us to be wise in those decisions. Help us to be ready to make those decisions with the information that's provided and be ready to move forward with those decisions as they need to be implemented. Father, we ask that you continue to bless this nation, continue to help its leadership to seek your path and to seek your guidance in the decisions that they make. Father, help us always as representatives of the people to seek their input, but foremost, Father, help us seek your input in the decisions that we make. Father, today and every day we're blessed, and we thank you most of all for your Son, for his love for each of us and his sacrifice for each of us. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. It was mentioned in the paper the other day from somebody at the Chamber of Commerce that this year's 4th of July parade was one of the best, if not the best ever. And I think we need to, that is correct. And I believe that that's something that everybody that's talked to me has discussed, and particularly what happened downtown, so at the park. Because of that, we have a proclamation. It's the month of July, and we have some folks here that we're going to recognize in a minute. I'm going to let Jan introduce them if you'd like to do that. But let me read the proclamation first. Designation of July as Park and Recreation Month. Whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Stephenville. Whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of the community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally and physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. And whereas parks and recreation programs increase the community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism, and attraction and retention of businesses and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community, where parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of the air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the city of Stephenville recognizes the benefit derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore I, Doug Savine, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Stephenville, Texas, do hereby proclaim July 2019 to be Parks and Recreation Month. And we'll say thank you to you and your services that you do.
Okay, y'all wanna. She literally stopped gardening to run over here. Alright. So this is a very small group of about 120 people we're employing this summer, from high school kiddos all the way through college, and then of course our full-time staff. So I'll let them introduce themselves, but Jamie, what do you do for us?
I teach the lessons I work for, I help around the park. CV Recreation Superintendent. I'm Sierra, full-time concession, and I also do sport.
Jesus Carl, Park Superintendent. Jake Munyon, Athletic Maintenance.
Cat Lovely, Recreation Coordinator.
Dennis Snyder, supervisor.
Ashley Daystar, Recreation Coordinator.
Tyler Newcomb, Recreation Aide.
Gracie Mills, Assistant Head Guard.
Chloe Baker, Health Lifeguard.
Sadie Fryer House, full-time lifeguard.
We'll say thank you to all the work that y'all do.
Jesse, could you have it? Yes, yes. Y'all squeeze a little bit,
You're
please.
gonna get small ones.
Yes. Perfect. All right, 1, 2, 3, Parks and Rec. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Perfect. Gotcha. Thank you.
Put your-
Oh, hang on, guys. Mayor, Mayor.
Yes, yes.
1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Okay, Mr. Huckabee, I've got the chief of police that's gonna support me in something afterwards. All right. Next item on the agenda is citizens' general discussion. Do we have anybody who's registered tonight to come speak to council? Hearing none, we'll go to the next committee, which is Tourism Visitors Bureau Committee, Carl Trussell.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. We had one request for funds that the committee forwarded to the full council, and it was by the World Series team roping, and the recommendation was for $7,500 toward that event.
Do I hear a motion from you?
I'll make the motion that we give them $7,500 of funds for the World Series team roping.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Brady? Okay. Brady made the second. I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We
Thank you.
did have one other request, and it was tabled until the committee meets again, so we're not taking any action on it tonight.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Thank you, Carla. I think we have a pretty short agenda tonight. Nominations Committee, Gerald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The nominations committee met twice to interview candidates for different citizens boards and commissions. They met on the 25th and Thursday the 27th, and we ended up interviewing everyone that attended and applied. We'd like to place into nomination the following citizens to these boards and commissions. Board of Adjustment, place 1, Cecilia Willett. Alternate place 2, Janet Zom. Alternate place 3, Ian Martinez. Alternate place 4, Ron Henry. Planning and Zoning Commission, place 6, Brian Leslie. Stephenville Type B Economic Development Authority, place 3, Justin Hashke. Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, place 6, Josh Raymond. Tourism and Visitors Advisory Board, place 7, Michael Brown, and place 8, Alexis McLaughlin. And we'd like to make that in the form of a motion that those be accepted.
Do I have a motion
I
for that, a
second
second?
that, Mayor.
Can I make a comment? It's Cecilia, I think there's an I missing in her name.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion by Gerald and a second by Alan. Any further discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion passes. We now have a bunch of committee members. And thank you to everybody who actually signed up to be a volunteer. That's something that's really important. We had lots of people apply, so I appreciate that very much. Next item, Public Works, Mr. Nix.
Mayor, we also met, but we only met once. It just took us one to do the job, Gerald.
We're slow.
Well, yeah, maybe more methodical. First item that we discussed was the construction of new cells at the landfill. The plans and specs have been worked on, and actually, we are in the process of removing some of the material from those two cells, 5 and 6, with our labor force that we have. As we continue to do this, we'll reach a point where we'll need to come back and resurvey, and then we'll put the rest of the construction up for bids, so that we'll be able to hopefully come in well under the estimate for the actual construction of the cells. There's surveying and soil samples and some other things that we have to do, but it is our opinion that we've come up with some material that will be sufficient for the liner material, which is always a question. If you don't, you have to purchase it, and it's very expensive. But in this case, I think we'll have adequate material to construct the cell liners once we get to the appropriate depth, and the other issues that we need to deal with will be managed by either our staff or the contractor that we get to do this based on the bids that we receive. At some point in the future, we'll come back with the bid paperwork to submit this, to put this out for bids, and then come back with the bids for council approval before that expenditure is actually approved. This was basically just an update on what movement is out at the landfill. The second item that we discussed is the East Side Sewer Lift Station. The lift station is such a large and complex structure that it was Mr. Williams' opinion, and I think the committee concurred with that. It might be a good idea to have another set of professional eyes look at that. The contract that we have before you tonight is with Providence Engineering to pursue value engineering opportunities on that specific part of the East Side project. That part of the project is the first part that we have undertaken to construct, and because of the weather, it has not moved as quickly as we thought it would. But with that in mind, we still believe it would be wise to let another set of eyes look at the plans and the specs and the construction documents, and if there are any savings that are actually realized from the construction bid, and these will be realized through change orders that we approve, then that percentage of savings will go back to Providence Engineering, the 10% percentage of those savings that are actually realized. It will be thoroughly vetted by our staff and then by other professionals before those are implemented, so there will be no compromise in the integrity or the functionality of the structure, either one. It was a unanimous recommendation of the committee that we engage Providence to begin this process as quickly as possible and have that in place and be working with the existing contractor as they do the construction process. It was a unanimous recommendation, and Mr. Mayor, I would make the motion now that we approve the contract with Providence Engineering for value engineering on the lift station that's part of the East Side Sewer project that is located at our wastewater treatment plant.
Second.
Al makes the motion and Mark seconds it. Any further discussion? Proceed to vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Same sign opposed. Approval of the engineering agreement. Thank you, Mr. Nix. Anything else?
Mayor, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Monica, going to do your monthly budget report.
Mayor, Council, this is the budget review for the period ending May 31st, 2019. We have received $444,000 in property tax in the month of May, which is $253,000 or a 4.4% increase over the funds collected through May of last year. The county usually collects 98 to 99% of our property taxes through May, so the $5.998 million collected is 99.28% of the $6.04 million that we've budgeted. We received $539,000 in sales tax in May, which is $60,000 over our target budget through May. We received $244,000 or 6.06% more than the funds received in May of last year.
What was that number again? The comparison?
We received $244,000 more or 6.06%. We received $310,000 in hotel occupancy tax revenue through May, which is a 30% increase over the. Sorry. I guess that's the end of the report. Let's see if we can fix this.
Will city manager make sure that you're the one that approves the next piece of equipment back?
All right, we're gonna kind of go with that for now. Okay, 30% increase over the $239,000 in hotel occupancy tax revenue received last year. We spent $274,000 in hotel occupancy tax funds through May as compared to the $225,000 last year. These numbers do include our revenue and expenditures for Moolah Fest as well as the interest income. The target budget for operating revenue is $17 million. We've received $19.3 million in revenue through May, which is $2.35 million over our budget. This is because of our property taxes, sales tax, and interest income. The target budget for our operating expenditures is $13.5 million. We've expended $12.2 million through May, which is $1.3 million under budget. The operating revenue received last year was $18.1 million as compared to the current year's $19.3 million, which is $1.2 million increase due to our property taxes, sales and other taxes, service charges, and investment interest. The operating expenditures last year were $11.5 million as compared to the current year's $12.2 million, which is a $666,000 increase. The additional expenditures were wages, the special election, outside professional fees, maintenance, child safety grants, wages and advertising in the HOT fund, and wages and economic development programs in our CETA fund. The rescue jacks for our fire department have been purchased. The CDBG project for Lenox, Fairfax, and Dodge is in progress, as well as our 536-acre well field development project. Any questions?
Any questions, Monica? Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. I can fix this before the...
Jeff? If you touch it, you break it, you buy it, Jeff. Jeff, if you break it, you buy it.
I always touch it though. That's weird. Okay. Jeez.
Yep, you just whacked it.
It's going to be very difficult. Well, with respect to your time today, after fiddling with the microphone, I thought today I'd share a few statistics, which I think are pretty interesting because they help us make decisions in retail and commercial recruitment. And as we've been talking about that for some time, and some of the big decisions you guys have made have been around that, I thought I'd give you some more information that might help as we move forward. As an example, we've talked about our retail trade area being 85,000 or so right now, growing up to about 89,000 in the next couple of years. But in a 20-minute drive time, a lot of times people will look at drive time. So let's say, as an example, in a 20-minute drive time around Stephenville, it's estimated that our area will realize a 5.4% growth in the next 5 years. Actually, starting last year, so from 18 to 2023, we'll have about a 5.4% continued growth in population. By comparison, if we look at other markets, retailers often research when they're looking at our area, our growth over the last decade and in the next 5-year projection completely overshadow these markets. You see on the screen just forward, this is simply a sampling. This is not the end-all, do-all comparison, but oftentimes these are some other markets that are that we are compared to. They include, of course, the Stephenville markets on there, the Cleburne market, the Brownwood market, and the Corsicana market. While this is only a sample, data shows that our area has the largest growth in population. I mentioned the 5.4% projection. The next highest would be 2.8%, and then 0.2%, and then a 0% in some of these other areas. And then when you look at housing or household trends, ours is projected to be 5.9%. The next closest is 5.2%, and then 0.9%, and then 1.9%. So we're vastly overshadowing a lot of these other areas. Now, in addition to looking at potential locations, or when they look into potential locations, retailers want to know what kind of consumers are present within those communities. In other words, it's one thing to have a population count or income averages and those kinds of things we often have talked about over the last several years, but they're also interested in the psychographics of these people, what kind of people actually make up the clientele or the potential consumers within a community. So they kind of peel back the rooftops, if you will, on all of these households within our community, and they put people in different categories based on the expenditures that we all have. And we fill in dozens of different categories, but most people fit in within one or two of the different ones. And our top three are as follows. Number 1 is Colleges and Cafe, which is young and recent college graduates living in college communities. This makes up almost 15% of our community versus a national average of 0.84%, so under 1%. These folks are in, just as in a description, they're into fitness, enjoy shopping for designer fashions or latest consumer electronics. Many shop at low and mid-price clothiers and get by on fast casual and quick-serve dining. They like the trend of healthier food items. A second category would be what's called True American Grit. These are middle-class households in town and country communities located in the nation's midsection. Our percentage is about 13.3% as compared to 1.3% nationwide. If they can't get what they want at local stores, this group will travel more than an hour to mainstream and big box retailers. They like to buy American and are into Ford, Dodge, and Chevy type vehicles. Appropriate. And then a third and final one that I'll talk about tonight, and again we have several, but a third and final is called the digital dependents. These are Gen Y and Gen X singles who live digital-driven urban lifestyles. We have about 9.6% of our community that fits into this category as opposed or as compared to 4.2% nationwide, so a little over double. These folks are ambitious, eager to spend, music lovers who are digitally savvy. They revel in multitasking lifestyles. They have active social lives, but also enjoy video gaming, much like Mr. Nix. They have champagne tastes on six-pack budgets, but they won't compromise on electronics. While a lot of markets the size of Stephenville struggle to keep younger folks in town, data shows that we keep nearly 25% of our population with the younger generation. And the challenge will be, of course, to continue this trend to keep them in our community as we recruit other commercial and retail establishments in the future. So that's just a little sampling of some of the information that we're starting to get and can provide to the council and to the community.
Any other questions?
There are some things that you should not divulge publicly.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. That'll be executive sessions.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions? All right.
Fortnightly.
We're going to move on to the consent agenda, and just for everybody's information, we have removed item 3 from the consent agenda. So do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Carl makes a motion we approve.
Second.
Brady seconds it. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Thank you. So we've approved the consent agenda minus item 3. Comments by city manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have a preliminary budget work session next Tuesday. That's the 16th at 5:30. A TERS board special and a special council meeting and a council committee meetings on Tuesday, July 23rd at 5:30 p.m. We have a special city council meeting Thursday, July 25th at 5:30 p.m. and our next regularly scheduled council meeting is August the 6th. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone. Everybody knows that I've had a pretty significant medical issue over the last month or so. To echo the words that Mr. Nix said in his prayer this evening, everybody from the council to the staff to folks I don't even know have come up and offered to help. Had a couple of folks who to this day I don't know who they are, offered to mow my yard for me. That's an example of what a great community we live in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mark.
No comment, sir.
No comments tonight?
Nothing. I'd just like to again thank Jen and her staff and all the city staff, fire department, police department, streets that helped make July 4th Independence Day such a success. It was, and again talking about our community, I was further back in the parade driving the float, but we had God Bless America playing from our float, and as we turned the corner at the square, and it was pretty amazing to look out and see all of the people singing the song along with us, and so great community we live in. So thanks again to all the city staff that helped make that possible.
I want to second that, and then I want to talk just a minute about one of our departments specifically. I don't think most people realize how significant and how thorough, maybe that's the way to say it, our police department works things. The young lady that was missing our police department, starting with the officers that first took that call, they continued to ask questions, they continued to research, they continued to investigate until they found that things didn't fit quite right. Then they began to do what I would call a forensic investigation of her cell phone and other electronic devices that she had, and specifically Detective Jeremy Lanier and the others in that department did an outstanding job in being able to trace that young lady and find her and bring her back in just a matter of hours. Had that not happened, I shudder to think at what might have happened to her and where she might have ended up. But our police department, this is just one example of the work that they do, usually unheralded, and most people never hear their names or never know what they've done. But this is just one example of that department and the work that they do. And I think I could put that in any department that we have in the city, because we've got such an outstanding group of employees. Parks and Rec is one of them, and the fire and the police and the others, you just name it. And they go above and beyond time and time again for our citizens and to help and protect them. And we owe them a debt of gratitude. And I hope when we start working on the budget, Mayor, that we will recognize some of that and begin to make some progress on some of those things that we've neglected in the past.
You might be surprised.
Pleasantly, I hope.
Gerald,
No, nothing.
Brandon.
Well, I will play off that a little bit. We've got a little over a month left for the annual Handsome Hunks contest this year. August 16th. Mr. Nix we're trying to get him, maybe next year. But it is the Stephenville Fire Department versus the Police Department, and they're raising money for their association. So every dollar they raise goes back into those associations. I've been fortunate and blessed enough over the last few weeks. I've rode along on a shift with the police, and I've spent some time at the fire department just being a part of it, just watching how they do things. And we have amazing staff in both of those departments, and they do a great job. So you guys should be well commended. But I ask the community to get involved. Like I said, you can vote with your dollar. Every dollar goes to these guys. Whether it's equipment they need, some medical stuff that we're hoping to raise some money for the fire department, for some stuff that we wish we could do as a city council, but it's just we can't pay for everything. So if you want to get involved, you can talk to Brady or I, talk to anybody on the police department or fire department. We got some fun guys that are sure to entertain on August 16th. And so feel free to, I know Doug usually challenges, but I challenge all my fellow council members to get a table or at least make a donation. And you don't have to say if it's fire or police. I'm sure they'll tell because they like to brag. But thank you all for your service, and we'd love to see as many people as we can there. So
Today, America lost a great person, H. Ross Perot. A lot of people don't remember that when he ran as a third-party candidate, and when he pulled out of the race, he was leading all candidates, including our President Bush and Bill Clinton, who ended up being president. He pulled out of the race. I can't remember exactly the length of time, but when he got back in the race, even though he had lost a lot of his attention, he still garnered 19% of the vote, total vote. The conservative movement that's in Texas, particularly since he's a homegrown Texan, but also the conservative movement that went through America was started by H. Ross Perot. And third-party candidates to this day have never come close to achieving what he did. He had one thing that he said, and it was his overall writing position, and that is live within your budget. And we have a young lady here tonight who made a similar comment about a volunteer fire department recently who's doing the same thing. So I think he was a great man, and I know that our city will live within its budget, so I appreciate that. Any other comments? Therefore, in compliance with the provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Law, Subchapter D, Government Code Vernon's Texas Codes, annotated in accordance with Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, approval of bid for property located on Clinton Street, and Section 551.074, personal matters, consider municipal judge interviews. We'll be back.